Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created a 90 voice choir in my latest work using only 10 takes of my own voice. I'll show you how I widened the pitches and staggered the timing of each part using the fine-tuning and delay compensation features in Cubase Pro. If this interests you, I welcome your comments and suggestions. Also, if you like my video today, please help my channel by giving it a thumbs up. New subscribers are always welcome. So let's get to it. The purple strip at the top of the user interface you're going to see in a moment means we're in cycle mode. And that means every time I sang a track, I actually just did another pass on the same track, and we created lanes from those. So what I have to do now is create tracks from those lanes. You'll notice that each of the tracks now is muted, so I have to unmute every one of them and then mute all the lanes. And the next step, of course, is to line everything up to a beat. So I'm going to snip the beginning of every event and at the end of every event so they're easier to line up later on when I start copying them to a different spot. Next, I'll fade in every track. And you can see here that I made another cut at the beginning of these events and muted them. I kept the muted events so that they'll line up nicely when I copy them to another part in the song later. And here I'm going to take all 10 tracks and spread them over evenly across the stereo spectrum from left to right. Next, I'll create a group track for all of these 10 tracks, give it a name, there we go. And now I can get rid of all the reverb effects on each one of the individual tracks. I really only had them there for some inspiration while I sang each pass, but now I can run them right through the group track. Let's have a listen. Well, yeah, that's pretty out of alignment, so we're going to have to straighten that out. Have a look here. See the top track, how much earlier it came in? I'm going to have to line this one up. In fact, I'm going to line them all up, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. First, I'll activate Vary Audio. Vary Audio corrects the pitch. It puts it right on the grid. Part of the beauty and the character of multi-tracking unison voices are the imperfections and the variations in the pitches. But I prefer quite a bit more control over these elements. So I placed every pitch right on the grid. The variations and the slight imperfections that add to the character will still be there. The vibrato and the slides from one note to the next will all be a little bit different. Now what I'm doing here is tightening the beginnings and endings of every note by using the audio warp time stretch feature in Cubase. Fortunately, every note was a quarter note, so it's fairly easy to line these up to a grid, but I'll tell you, it's pretty tedious too. I've done this in fast motion just to show you what I did, but I did this for like 10 tracks. I'll spare you the other 9 tracks, but you get the idea. Well, it certainly looks better. Let's give it a listen. Yeah, big improvement for sure. Okay, so the next task is we're going to make 90 tracks out of that. So we're going to duplicate each one of these 10 tracks 8 more times. And of each set of 10 tracks, I'm going to alter the pitch by a certain number of cents. Right here, I'm raising each pitch plus 3 cents. And to activate it, you have to go up into the info line here and just write in plus 3, and that will raise each pitch by that amount. So we'll just continue here by duplicating the original track again, and this time we're going to fine-tune each of the 10 voices by plus 6 cents. And a big part of the tediousness of this whole process is that I have to label every track as I go. And here you can see a yellow column that shows you the increments that I increased and decreased every set of 10 tracks. So you can see I've increased 10 tracks by plus 3 cents, the second set of 10 tracks by plus 6 cents, then plus 9 and plus 12. I wanted to keep one set of 10 tracks in the center, right on the pitch, and then I started lowering each set of 10 by 3 cents. So it was like -3, the next 10 was -6 cents, the next 10 were -9 cents, and the last set of 10 were -12. Now I had to freeze all of these tracks because I'd used up pretty much all the resources my computer had, and I was getting all kinds of audio dropouts. So this was a real pain in the butt, having to freeze and unfreeze tracks as I went. But I persisted, and in the end, I managed to get my 90 tracks. Next, I used Steinberg's cloner plugin to fatten up the 90 voices I already had. Being the bugger for punishment that I am, I decided that the widening of increments of 3 cents was not enough. So I redid everything so that plus 3 cents became plus 5, and I widened the plus 6 cents to 10, 9 to 15, 12 to 20, and so on. So have a look at the column on the right. Now that the pitches were looked after, I staggered the entry points of each of the 90 tracks. I used Cubase's delay compensation feature to vary the beginning of every track. I started by delaying the entry of the first track by -60 milliseconds. Then I went to the next track and delayed its beginning by -50 milliseconds. I continued down the tracks and subtracted the entry points by increments of 10 milliseconds until I got to 0. Then I picked up at the next track and moved each event ahead in increments of 10 milliseconds. I repeated this process until I finished all 90 tracks. Ultimately, what I wanted was a stereo mixdown of all 90 tracks, if for no other reason than to reclaim my computer resources. I was so sick of freezing and unfreezing tracks. Before I could do the audio mixdown, though, I had to move the left locator back 1 bar because of the early entries created by the delay compensation. So here I am on the audio mixdown page. I'm going to give it a name. Ken Choir Bounce, I guess. And I always like to create a new track right in the project just to show myself it's actually there. And now I can finally disable those 90 tracks. And here's our stereo mixdown. We're going to move it a little closer to the action so we can deal with it a little easier. I'm going to create a little cut here, mute it, but keep the muted event just so we can keep things lined up, and I'll introduce a nice smooth fade. Audio Imperia has a beautiful tenor choir patch in their Nucleus orchestral software instrument. So here it is in my Contact player. I played the part in on my keyboard and then blended it in with my own voice. Well, that's a pretty good balance. All that's left now is to copy the part to recurring sections within the song, add a small fade, and have a listen to the final product. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Bye now.